As you may know by now, my expertise and passion lies in helping you build a life that you love with your family by using time management methods that are very unique in my teachings so far, as well as my expertise as an early childhood educator and my understanding of children to help you bond with your child on a deeper level. And part of that is also to understand what authorities are saying you should do and recommendations that they have for you in mitigating any stresses and uncertainties that you may be feeling, any fears. And I found it really interesting that the CDC published something from our local San Diego Health and Human Services Agency. It's a one-page article that I highly recommend you go and read. Its title is Maintaining Mental Health and Wellness During the COVID-19 Outbreak. And the second bullet down, which I found was very fascinating, the first sentence is inclusive in many of the articles that are published with CDC, which is engage in relaxation techniques to reduce stress. But then Health and Human Services takes it another level. They go deeper with it by giving you some specific recommendations. Meditations are available readily online. Create a list of things you are grateful for, which helps you reduce stress. Health and Human Services is recommending practices of gratitude and meditation to all of us in the San Diego community. That's huge because meditation is still something that's new to the Western world. I've personally been an early adopter and meditating for years now and have done my best to surround myself with people who are better at it than me to help enhance my practice. And I've heard feedback from people who don't meditate that it doesn't work, it's too hard. I feel like my mind is racing and I can't slow down. It just doesn't make sense to me. Why would I do this? Or even feeling like it's making things worse. So I can relate to all of those feelings and all of those things. I have been there in my practice at some point in time, on and off over the years. It takes real practice to really get past that and break through. But there are some types of meditation that are a little bit more active than the just sitting and breathing meditations that I'm sure you've tried in the past. There are some thought-provoking, thoughtfully practiced meditations that you can do to relieve the suffering and pain that you're feeling right now. So I'm going to lean on Pema Chodron, who wrote the book When Things Fall Apart today. I'm going to read a chapter to you that really resonates. This book has changed my husband's and my life. When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodron. We've read it a few times, several times. We use it as this encyclopedic reference to really lean on when we really need help and direction in our practice. So I'm going to share with you a specific method she recommends when you're suffering so that you can let go and be gentle with yourself and feel a lot better about what's going on in the world today. So let's do this. Hi, Melissa Dillon here to interrupt the show real quick to let you know that the second edition of our COVID-19 Ultimate Family Plan has now been released. Go to raisingkindness.org to download your copy of the second edition, which is packed with a step-by-step guide to helping you find clarity and calm in your routine going into the second week of the lockdown period. Also, a huge list of resources to help you through gaining that clarity and calm that you're seeking, and also homeschooling your children, managing work, all that stuff. So please go to raisingkindness.org and download your copy of the second edition today. Now, let's dive into the show. We're replacing the More Time Loving Mom Life show right now with support to get you through this, feeling like you're continuing to thrive in a life that you love with your kids. Let's do this. Okay, so what I'm about to talk about has to do with your block of time, the time block of self-care. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, and this is one of your first episodes, welcome. I really hope that everything that I cover today will help you. I highly recommend you go to our trailer episode that'll introduce you to the concept of the ultimate family plan that's going to help you through this time of crisis and help you feel like you're thriving with your family while you guys are on lockdown. And I talk about time blocking in there. I think time blocking is critical because it allows you to have a relaxed method of productivity and sense of routine and organization in your time together under one roof. And it also helps you to get clarity on exactly what your purpose is for each day. So, the block of time that I'm talking about with self care today is going to talk specifically about meditation. So, just like I said, we're going to go through a chapter. I'm going to lean on Pema Chodron because I'm not a meditation teacher, but she is, and she's a master. And I really recommend you look up some YouTube videos too to get some more information about her. And also consider looking into her book, When Things Fall Apart. It's available on Audible. I'll put the link in the show notes too so you can download it. The excerpt that I'm going to read is only about 3 pages, and it's going to include some very specific and profound things. I'm going to read it smoothly and slowly so that everyone can really take in what's going on, because we are all going through this. This is a worldwide pandemic, and we're all struggling with all sorts of feelings of fear and anger, jealousy, feeling overpowered by all the scary unknowns that we're not really sure what's going to go, and going into April. And she is going to give you a real arsenal of practice here that you can do, even if you're not a meditator by on the daily. This will really be a great spot to introduce you to it. So this is a chapter 15, Going Against the Grain by Pema Chodron's When Things Fall Apart. In order to feel compassion for other people, we have to feel compassion for ourselves. In particular, to care about people who are fearful, angry, jealous, overpowered by addictions of all kinds, arrogant, proud, miserly, selfish, mean, you name it. To have compassion and to care for these people means not to run from the pain of finding these things in ourselves. In fact, our whole attitude toward pain can change. Instead of fending it off and hiding from it, we could open our hearts and allow ourselves to feel that pain. Feel it as something that will soften and purify us and make. Forgive me, I had a phone call come in. So I'll start that sentence again. Instead of fending it off and hiding from it, we could open our hearts and allow ourselves to feel that pain. Feel it as something that will soften and purify us and make us far more loving and kind. Toggling practice is a method for connecting with suffering, our own and that which is all around us, everywhere we go. It is a method for overcoming our fear of suffering and for dissolving the tightness of our hearts. Primarily, it is a method for awakening the compassion that is inherent in all of us, no matter how cruel or cold we might seem to be. We begin the practice by taking on the suffering of a person whom we know to be hurting and wish to help. For instance, if we know of a child who is being hurt, we breathe in with the wish to take away all of that child's pain and fear. Then, as we breathe out, we send happiness, joy, or whatever would relieve the child. This is the core of the practice, breathing in others' pain so they can be well and have more space to relax and open, breathing out, sending them relaxation or whatever we feel would bring them relief and happiness. Often, however, we can't do this practice because we come face to face with our own fear, our own resistance or anger, or whatever our personal pain happens to be just then. At that point, we can change the focus and begin to do toggling for what we are feeling and for millions of other people just like us, who at that very moment are feeling exactly the same stuckness and misery. Maybe we are able to name our pain. We recognize it clearly as terror, or revulsion, or anger, or wanting to get revenge. So we breathe in for all the people who are caught in the same emotion, and we send out relief for whatever opens up the space for ourselves and all those countless others. Maybe we can't name what we're feeling, but we can feel it, a tightness in the stomach, a heavy darkness, or whatever. We simply contact what we are feeling and breathe in, take it in for all of us, and send out to all of us. Send out relief to all of us. People often say that this practice goes against the grain of how we usually hold ourselves together. Truthfully, this practice does go against the grain of wanting things on our own terms, wanting everything to work out for ourselves no matter what happens to the others. The practice dissolves the walls we've built around our hearts. It dissolves the layers of self-protection we've tried so hard to create. In Buddhist language, one would say that it dissolves the fixation and clinging of ego. I'll read that again. In Buddhist language, one would say that it dissolves the fixation and clinging of ego. Toglen reverses the usual logic of avoiding suffering and seeking pleasure. In the process, we become liberated from very ancient patterns of selfishness. We begin to feel love for both ourselves and others. We begin to take care of ourselves and others. Toglen awakens our compassion and introduces us to a far bigger view of reality. It awakens our compassion and introduces us to a far bigger view of reality. It introduces us to the unlimited spaciousness. By doing the practice, we begin to connect with the open dimension of our being. At first, this allows us to experience things as not such a big deal and not so solid as they seemed before. Toglen can be done for those who are ill, those who are dying or have died, those who are in pain of any kind. It can be done as a formal meditation practice or right on the spot at any time. We are out walking and we see someone in pain. Right on the spot, we can begin to breathe in that person's pain and send out relief. Or we are just as likely to see someone in pain and look away. The pain brings up our fear or anger. It brings up our resistance and confusion. So on the spot, we can do Toglen for all the people just like ourselves, all those who wish to be compassionate but instead are afraid, who wish to be brave but instead are cowardly. Rather than beating ourselves up, we can use our personal stuckness as a stepping stone to understanding what people are up against all over the world. Breathe in for all of us and breathe out for all of us. Use what seems like poison as medicine. We can use our personal suffering as the path to compassion for all beings. When you do Toglen on the spot, simply breathe in and breathe out, taking in pain and sending out spaciousness and relief. When you do Toglen as a formal meditation practice, it has 4 stages. Number 1, first, rest your mind briefly for a second or two in a state of openness or stillness. This stage is traditionally called flashing on absolute bodhicitta, or suddenly opening to basic spaciousness and clarity. Number 2, second, work with texture. Breathe in a feeling of hot, dark, and heavy, a sense of claustrophobia, and breathe out a feeling of cool, bright, and light, a sense of freshness. Breathe in completely through all the pores of your body, and breathe out, radiate out completely through all the pores of your body. Do this until it feels synchronized with your in and out breaths. Number 3, third, work with a personal situation. Any painful situation that's real to you. Traditionally, you begin by doing Toglen for someone you care about and wish to help. However, as I described, if you are stuck, you can do the practice for the pain you are feeling and simultaneously for all those just like you who feel that kind of suffering. For instance, if you are feeling inadequate, you breathe that in for yourself and all the others in the same boat, and you send out confidence and adequacy or relief in any form you wish. Number 4, finally, make the taking in and sending out bigger. If you are doing Toglen for someone you love, extend it out to those who are in the same situation as your friend. If you are doing Toglen for someone you see on television or on the street, do it for all the others in the same boat. Make it bigger than just one person. If you are doing Toglen for all those who are feeling the anger or fear or whatever that you are trapped in, maybe that's big enough. But you could go further in all these cases. You could do Toglen for people you consider to be your enemies, those who hurt you or hurt others. Do Toglen for them, thinking of them as having the same confusion and stuckness as your friend or yourself. Breathe in their pain and send them relief. Toglen can extend infinitely. As you do the practice, gradually over time, your compassion naturally expands, and so does your realization that things are not as solid as you thought. As you do this practice, gradually at your own pace, you will be surprised to find yourself more and more able to be there for others, even in what used to seem like impossible situations. End of chapter. Okay, so a moment of pause. It's a pretty profound chapter, and a lot of it may or may not have made sense to you while I read it. It depends on your understanding of meditation, your experiences with meditation. I highly recommend listening to it a couple times if you want to try it out seriously. I've done the Toglen practice several times over the last few days since I was reminded of it by reading that chapter. And I thought, gosh, this is really cool. It's really helping me and relieving a lot of the suffering I was feeling. The suffering that I've been feeling personally has mostly been around, worrying about all of our customers. I mean, I know a lot of our parents and families that we serve with our mobile tumbling program are okay, thank goodness, and most are still working. But I know, based on the numbers, that about 20% of us are getting hit really hard. And that hurts, and taking that in and taking that pain in and just recognizing that it's okay to be hurting and stressed and scared, that it's okay, and that you deserve that compassion. I deserve that compassion to allow me to let it go and recognize that what's going on right now is outside of our control. And just because it's happening to us does not mean we need to let it control our feelings and emotions. It does not mean that we have to live in fear. This is a wonderful, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us to be home with our families right now. It's so special. And to be stressed and worried and bogged down with heavy thoughts of what's to come and making decisions that you may not normally make because of the fear, whether you have your job or not, things do feel uneasy, and we can all be compassionate for each other and ourselves through this practice. So what I would recommend that you do if you want to try this is just pay attention when you're hurting. And any time that you're feeling your thoughts go a little wild, then remember this practice and take in all the pain from yourself, all those uncertain thoughts and the feelings that are happening in your body because of it. And recognize that you are not alone, that there are so many other people right now during this pandemic that are struggling just like you. So taking in all that pain, breathing it in, and really feeling it in your entire body, and then breathing out to let out the peace and release and calm that you deserve, that all those people deserve. And starting with just yourself and giving yourself that self-love is just as important. And then once you feel ready, you can expand it to others. But start with yourself and breathe out the well wishes to everyone in your house, that they be well and calm down and feeling good about this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to practice this patience and understanding. Health and Human Services expands their recommendations for self-care to practice patience and tolerance, which can be really difficult during this time. So, this will help you practice. And I'm going to throw out there something, episode number 2 of Center for the Developing Child's the Brain Architects podcast. Dr. Shunkoff, who I really respect, I've grown to admire very much, especially through their podcasts, because I'm understanding his work a lot more and where his heart and head are with all of this. But they cover the pathways that are built into our brain, the habits, based on the foundations that we were given when we were born, and all of our experiences, all the way up until the very day that we went on lockdown with this pandemic, are changeable. So if you're feeling yourself panicked and worried and stressed, it's just because it's this situation is reminding you either of experiences you've had in the past, or that you've never had this experience at all, and the unknown is very yucky to the brain. The brain wants to reason and find puzzle pieces that plug in and tell you the magical answer at the end. The brain wants answers, and it's okay not to have those answers. Part of systems theory is that sometimes during change, when a community is going through change, then there's a moment of pause. And that moment of pause is discomforting. People want to quickly make changes and do things. And if you find yourself doing that, it's only natural, and don't beat yourself up. But the strong part is to hold. Just hunker down and pause. Pause with the pause. And work with what you have. And if you find that it's difficult, listen to this podcast again, or go to Amazon and go ahead and get this book, because it's a great one to have in your library. When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodron. I listened to a lot of her stuff and have read this book many times, and it has been a lifesaver. I highly recommend it for you. And it's a great one to include in your time blocking for any self-care or reading time or listening time while you're working out or going on your run, blowing off steam for exercise. It's a great one to listen to. I recommend it. Okay, so I really hope that this helps. Go to CDC's website and download this guide that they put out there, Maintaining Mental Health and Wellness During the COVID Outbreak. And also look into the resources that your local Health and Human Services agency has thrown together for you, because everyone is coming together, doing their very best to support you through this. You are not alone. Remember that. You are not alone. And this too shall pass. Hey, thank you so much for listening. I truly appreciate you. Thank you. And I look forward to talking with you next time.